10 Boundaries That Protect Your Energy and Define Your Path, by David Russo. Chapter 1. The Boundary of Self-Honor. Every meaningful boundary begins with one crucial foundation: honoring yourself. Think of self-honor as the soil from which all strong boundaries grow. It's what keeps you from shrinking to fit into someone else's expectations. It's the internal compass that whispers, "This doesn't reflect who I am anymore." More than anything, it's the part of you that stops trading your worth for validation, productivity, or praise. That self-honor isn't a mindset you adopt, it's a practice you live. It's the choices you make when no one's watching. Speaking your truth when it's uncomfortable. Standing firm when your values are tested. Recognizing your needs without minimizing them for someone else's ease. When this inner respect is missing, boundaries become fragile. You might say, "No," but quickly retract when disapproval shows up. You might swear off overextending yourself, yet still default to keeping everyone else happy. That's not weakness, it's conditioning. Many of us were taught that pleasing others kept us safe, while authenticity felt risky. But the truth is this: if you're constantly sidelining yourself to avoid tension, your energy and your future are at stake. Self-honor sounds like, "Silence doesn't mean consent, and I won't let it be misread. I care about you, but I won't accept disrespect. Loving you doesn't mean I have to stay close. This opportunity doesn't match my values, so I'm stepping away." These aren't declarations of war, they're expressions of clarity. They don't come from a place of ego, but from alignment. Real self-respect doesn't wait to be pushed too far. It maps the line before it's crossed. How to tell when you're neglecting your own boundary? Take a moment to check in. Am I saying yes out of fear or obligation, rather than genuine intent? Do I allow others to dismiss or interrupt me without pushback? Do I tolerate behavior that feels wrong just to avoid discomfort? Do I minimize my voice or light to make others feel at ease? If any of this rings true, you're not broken, you're becoming aware. These habits were often formed for survival, not success. And awareness is the first crack in the old pattern. Change doesn't demand radical shifts. It begins with noticing, then slowly choosing differently, one clear choice at a time. Crafting a life rooted in self-respect. This is your foundation. When your boundaries come from a place of inner dignity, you don't need to over-explain or apologize. You're not building walls, you're nurturing your roots. And those roots anchor everything: your goals, your relationships, your peace. The future you want won't be born from burnout or approval chasing. It will take shape through self-alignment, choosing what matters, even when it's hard, even when it costs you temporary comfort. Because what you receive in return, clarity, confidence, and calm, is worth far more than anything you let go. Chapter 2. The Boundary of Time Ownership. You are not too busy. You're just overcommitted to things that don't align with your priorities. Time ownership is the conscious decision to take back control of your hours, your focus, and your attention. It means recognizing that every yes you give is a no to something else, often something more meaningful, more aligned, and more necessary for your growth. We live in a culture that celebrates busyness as a status symbol. When someone asks how you've been, answering "busy" has become shorthand for productive, important, in demand. But the truth is, busyness is often just unexamined obligation. You can be busy and still be stagnant. You can be scheduled to the minute and still be far from where you want to go. The difference between being busy and being intentional lies in one powerful boundary: time ownership. Owning your time is owning your life. Your time is not just how you fill your calendar. It's how you shape your future. Think about it. Everything you value, your health, your creativity, your relationships, your dreams, requires time. And yet, How often do you give away your best hours to things that drain you, distract you, or don't move you forward? Owning your time means being willing to disappoint others to stay loyal to yourself. It means protecting your mornings for deep work instead of immediately checking your phone. It means limiting meetings that could have been an email and walking away from conversations that go nowhere but circles. Signs you've lost ownership of your time. You feel overwhelmed, but can't pinpoint why. You say yes quickly, then regret it later. Your to-do list grows, that nothing feels meaningful. You spend hours reacting instead of creating or deciding. These aren't just time issues, they're boundary issues. When you don't own your time, other people will. And not always maliciously. People will ask, expect, and invite, but it's your responsibility to decide. No one else can do that for you. Protecting your time without guilt. Saying no is hard when you're used to being available for everyone. But here's the truth. People who get offended by your boundaries are often the ones who benefited from you having none. You don't have to justify why you can't meet up. You don't need to apologize for blocking off a weekend for rest. You are allowed to protect your time without an excuse. Try replacing "I'm so sorry I can't" with "That won't work for me this week. I already have something scheduled, even if it's rest. I'm focused on a priority right now." Clear, respectful, final. Make time for the life you want. The future doesn't arrive fully formed. It's built one choice at a time. When you treat your time as valuable, others begin to respect it too. But more importantly, you start to live with intention, not reactivity. Every hour you reclaim, every interruption you prevent, every non-essential obligation you let go of, it all creates space. Space for rest. Space for clarity. Space for your real priorities. Owning your time is not about rigid scheduling. It's about aligned living. When your hours reflect your values, your energy follows, and so does your future. Chapter 3. Redrawing the lines of digital reach. You weren't built to be available around the clock. In today's hyper-connected world, where a buzz or banner can pull your attention in an instant, your focus has become a valuable commodity. And if you're not consciously guarding it, someone or something is spending it on your behalf. Digital access isn't just about who can message you. It's about how much of your internal space is being quietly occupied without your consent. We underestimate how much of our mental and emotional fuel is drained by screens. It's not just about the hours lost. It's about the tension held in unread messages, the emotional residue of unsettling content, and the tiny spikes of stress triggered by endless alerts. Every scroll, tap, and glance might seem harmless, but collectively, they chip away at your clarity. This is why creating digital boundaries isn't a luxury. It's survival. It's how you protect your mind, your mood, and your momentum. Your phone works for you, not the other way around. Your phone was designed to be a tool, but for many, it's become a tether. On average, people check their devices over 90 times a day, not out of necessity, but out of habit. It's a coping mechanism. For boredom, for loneliness, for discomfort, the issue isn't the technology itself, it's the absence of intention. Without boundaries around when and how you engage with digital devices, they begin to dictate the rhythm of your day and the state of your mind. Clues that it's time for a digital reset. You might need firmer boundaries if your first instinct in the morning is to check your phone, and anxiety hits before your feet touch the floor. You find yourself compulsively refreshing apps, even without a clear reason. Being online leaves you feeling strangely exhausted. Even when nothing intense happened, you feel guilty for not responding to messages right away, like you're falling short somehow. These aren't just habits. They're signs of depletion. They represent quiet drains on your energy. And that drain has a cost. Your focus, your calm, your presence. Taking back control of your digital space. You don't need to throw your phone in the ocean. You just need to stop letting it run the show. Reclaiming your digital space starts with small, deliberate steps. Set usage limits. Use screen time settings to create healthy caps on how long you spend in high distraction apps. Silence the noise. Turn off unnecessary notifications and badges. Let you decide when your attention shifts, not your lock screen. Carve out tech-free windows. Protect sacred times like mornings, mealtimes, and bedtime from digital interference. Begin and end your day on your terms. Respond with intention. You don't owe anyone instant replies. Give yourself permission to reply when you're ready, not when you're buzzed. You are not public property. Here's the truth. You don't owe anyone uninterrupted access to your life. Just because someone can reach you immediately doesn't mean they're entitled to an immediate reply. The pressure to be constantly available is a modern illusion, and a boundary you're allowed to redraw. When you reclaim your digital autonomy, something shifts. Your inner noise quiets. Your body relaxes. You start to hear your own thoughts again. That's where your power returns. That's where the fog lifts and your focus sharpens. Your energy isn't infinite. Protect it like something sacred because it is. Chapter 4. The boundary of emotional labor. Just because you can hold space for others doesn't mean you have to. Emotional labor is the invisible work of managing, supporting, soothing, or absorbing other people's emotions, often at the expense of your own. It's being the strong one, the calm one, or the go-to listener. And while empathy and compassion are powerful strengths, they can quietly become burdens when boundaries aren't in place. Most emotional labor is unspoken. You sense someone's tension and feel responsible for fixing it. You absorb their mood shifts and walk on eggshells to avoid conflict. You listen for hours to someone vent, but never get asked how you're doing. These patterns might seem small in the moment, but over time, they create emotional exhaustion, resentment, and burnout. Your emotional energy is not unlimited. The truth is, your emotional capacity is a finite resource. When you spend too much of it managing other people's reactions, moods, or problems, you have less available for yourself. And if you're always the one holding everyone else up, who's holding you? Emotional labor without boundaries leads to feeling drained after certain conversations, feeling guilty for needing space or time alone, avoiding conflict to keep others comfortable, saying, "I'm fine," when you're not, just to keep the peace. Sound familiar? These aren't personality traits, they're coping mechanisms. And while they may have served a purpose in the past, they are not sustainable if you want to protect your energy and build a future rooted in emotional wellness. Empathy without self-abandonment. You can care deeply without carrying everything. You can love people and still have limits. Emotional boundaries aren't walls. They're filters. They help you stay with people without being consumed by them. Start by asking yourself, do I feel responsible for other people's feelings? Do I offer emotional support even when I'm not okay? Do I feel guilty when I can't help or fix someone? Do I attract people who always seem to need rescuing? If you answered yes to any of these, it may be time to redefine what support means for you and what it costs you. How to set emotional boundaries without feeling cold. Setting emotional boundaries doesn't mean becoming distant or detached. It means recognizing when your energy is being drained and choosing not to override your limits. Here are some examples. I want to be here for you, but I don't have the capacity to hold space right now. I care about you, but I need to take care of my own emotional health today. I can listen for 15 minutes, and then I need to shift gears. That sounds like something a therapist or coach might be better equipped to help with. These aren't selfish, they're honest. They create clarity. They also model healthy boundaries for others, which gives them permission to do the same in their own lives. You are not an emotional dumping ground. Being a safe space for others is honorable, but being everyone's emotional dumping ground is not. You are not here to carry what is not yours to carry. If your energy is constantly being drained by the emotional needs of others, it's not a sign that you're strong. It's a sign that your boundaries are overdue. The future you want requires energy, focus, and presence. You can't give your best to your own life if you're always pouring into everyone else's. Set the boundary. Let the silence sit. Let people be uncomfortable. That discomfort often creates the space they need to take responsibility for themselves, and the space you need to breathe again. Chapter 5. The boundary of toxic relationships. Not everyone deserves a permanent place in your life. One of the hardest truths to accept is this: some relationships were only meant for a season, not a lifetime. And holding on too long out of loyalty, guilt, history, or fear can slowly erode your peace, your confidence, and your future. A toxic relationship doesn't always look loud or obvious. It's not always abuse, shouting, or betrayal. Sometimes it's subtle. It's constant guilt-tripping, passive-aggressive comments, one-sided dynamics. It's walking away from every interaction feeling drained, small, or wrong for simply being yourself. These types of relationships can exist anywhere: family, friendships, work, romance. The common thread is this: they consistently cost you more than they give you. Your energy is a mirror. Look closely at how you feel around certain people. Are you energized or exhausted? Grounded or anxious? Free or restricted? People either add to your energy or deplete it. Sometimes, a relationship that once felt life-giving turns into one that only takes. That shift can be hard to face, especially when the history is deep. But protecting your future means being honest about what's no longer aligned. Ask yourself, do I feel safe being fully myself around this person? Do I constantly second-guess what I say or do? Do I feel emotionally manipulated, guilted, or controlled? Do I leave interactions feeling worse instead of better? If the answer is yes more often than not, it's time to set or reinforce boundaries. What a boundary looks like with toxic people. Boundaries don't always mean cutting someone off completely. They mean deciding what access someone has to you and under what terms. With toxic people, clarity is everything. Vague boundaries invite pushback. Clear ones create distance, structure, and eventually peace. Examples: I'm not available for conversations that turn into personal attacks. If this continues to feel one-sided, I'll need to step back from the relationship. I care about you, but I'm not willing to tolerate disrespect, even subtle forms of it. I'm taking space to focus on my well-being. I'll reach out if and when I'm ready. You don't need to explain, defend, or over-justify your decision to protect your peace. A healthy person will honor your boundary. A toxic one will challenge it. That's how you'll know. Guilt is not proof that you're wrong. If you were conditioned to people please, you'll feel guilty for protecting yourself. That's normal. But don't confuse guilt with wrongdoing. Often, guilt just means you're breaking an old pattern, choosing yourself, where you used to abandon yourself. Let it be uncomfortable. Let people misunderstand you. Let them talk. You are not responsible for managing other people's reactions to your boundaries. You are only responsible for honoring the truth of what no longer works. Release to rise. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for both you and them is let go. Release the version of the relationship you wanted it to be. Release the fantasy that you can save or fix someone. Release the guilt of walking away from dysfunction. When you do, you create room for healing, clarity, and healthier connections. You protect the version of you that's growing. You reclaim energy that can now go toward your purpose, your peace, and your future. Because no dream, no calling, no deep healing can fully thrive in a toxic environment. And you were not made to shrink, tolerate, or stay stuck. You were made to rise. Chapter 6. The boundary of self-discipline. Self-discipline is not punishment, it's protection. It's the invisible guardrail that keeps you aligned with your purpose, especially when distractions, emotions, or temptations try to pull you off course. While external boundaries protect you from others, self-discipline is the boundary you set with yourself. And in many ways, it's the most powerful one of all. Most people think discipline is about restriction, cutting out joy, fun, or spontaneity. But true self-discipline isn't about deprivation. It's about delayed gratification. It's the ability to choose what you want most over what you want right now. And when you practice it consistently, discipline becomes freedom. Freedom from impulsivity. Freedom from regret. Freedom from feeling stuck in patterns that don't serve your future. You don't need more motivation. You need more boundaries. Motivation is fleeting. It's influenced by mood, energy, and circumstances. But discipline? It shows up whether you feel like it or not. It doesn't argue with excuses. It honors commitments. And the more you honor those commitments to yourself, the more confident and trustworthy you become in your own eyes. Ask yourself, do I keep the promises I make to myself? Do I follow through even when no one's watching? Do I allow short-term feelings to sabotage long-term goals? If your answer is not always, that's okay. Discipline isn't about perfection. It's about consistency. And consistency is built with small, repeatable actions, not giant leaps. Self-discipline is self-respect in action. Every time you get up early to work on your goals, you reinforce self-respect. Every time you choose the hard conversation over passive avoidance, you build inner strength. Every time you shut down distractions to focus, you invest in your future. These aren't small decisions. They're boundary-setting moments. You're saying, I don't answer to impulses. I answer to purpose. Here's the thing. Discipline won't always feel good in the moment. Sometimes it will feel boring, uncomfortable, or even lonely. But discomfort is temporary. Growth is permanent. Build discipline like a muscle. Discipline grows the same way muscles do, through repetition, resistance, and rest. Start small. Set a boundary to wake up 30 minutes earlier and use that time intentionally. Commit to one screen-free hour each evening. Create a rule to say no to last-minute plans that interfere with your priorities. Set limits on scrolling or media that drains your focus. Then build from there. Don't try to overhaul your entire life in 1 week. Real discipline is sustainable, not extreme. What matters most is that you follow through, especially when it's inconvenient. Your future will be built by what you do daily. Self-discipline is not about being harsh with yourself. It's about being honest with yourself. Honest about your patterns. Honest about your goals. Honest about what it's going to take. Because the truth is, nothing in your life will change unless you do. That dream you have, it requires structure. That peace you crave, it requires boundaries. That version of you that you're becoming, it requires choices the current version of you might resist. But the longer you practice discipline, the easier it gets to say, not today, I'm focused. I've come too far to backslide. I don't need to feel like it, I just need to do it. Discipline protects your vision from the temptations of comfort, and your future will thank you. Chapter 7. The boundary of rest and recovery. Rest is not a reward. It's a requirement. In a culture that glorifies hustle and idolizes productivity, Rest is often viewed as a luxury, something you earn after proving your worth through exhaustion. But the truth is, rest is not what happens when you finally burn out. Rest is what prevents the burnout in the first place. Without rest, your mind becomes cluttered, your emotions unstable, and your energy scattered. You become reactive instead of intentional. You chase tasks instead of building vision. And perhaps most dangerously, you begin to confuse being busy with being effective. Rest is a boundary with the world and with yourself. You must protect your right to slow down, to pause, to recover. Rest isn't just sleep, though, that's crucial. It's stepping away from overstimulation. It's giving yourself permission to do nothing. It's saying, I'm unavailable not because you're doing something important, but because your rest is important. Recovery is what recharges your clarity. It's what strengthens your nervous system, refreshes your focus, and makes space for new ideas to arrive. Without it, even your best efforts begin to feel like empty motion. Signs you need rest, even if you don't think you do. You're easily irritated or emotionally reactive. You feel tired but wired, unable to relax, even when you have the chance. You keep pushing through, telling yourself you'll rest after the next thing. Your creativity feels blocked or flat. You're productive, but not present. These signs aren't laziness or weakness. They're signals from your body and mind that your system is overloaded. Ignoring them doesn't build resilience. It accelerates depletion. Redefining what counts as rest. One reason people struggle to rest is because they only associate it with sleeping or doing nothing. But rest comes in many forms, and knowing what kind of rest you need is part of setting a healthy boundary. Types of rest include physical rest, sleep, stretching, walking, slowing down physically; mental rest, time away from screens, decision-making, or problem-solving; emotional rest, time alone, journaling, therapy, or safe emotional release; social rest, taking a break from people-pleasing, conversations, or overstimulation; spiritual rest, meditation, nature, silence, or reconnecting with meaning. The boundary here is choosing rest on purpose, not only when you've collapsed from overdoing it. Rest is not quitting. It's strategizing. The boundary of rest is what keeps you in the game for the long haul. It's what allows you to show up to your life fully, not just functionally. You don't need to deserve rest by crossing off every item on your to-do list. You don't need to explain it, justify it, or apologize for it. You can simply decide, I choose to take care of myself today. And that choice is a power move, not a sign of weakness. When you honor the boundary of rest, you stop measuring your worth by your output. You stop tying your value to your busyness. And you start living in alignment with a deeper truth. Sustainability is the foundation of success. You are not a machine. You are not a to-do list. You are a whole human being with limits, and respecting those limits isn't lazy. It's wise. Chapter 8. The boundary of financial intentionality. Money is energy. And without boundaries, it leaks. We often think of boundaries as things we set in relationships or with our time. But financial boundaries are just as vital, because how you handle your money is often a direct reflection of how you handle your power, your priorities, and your future. Financial stress is one of the most common energy drains. It clouds your peace of mind, limits your options, and can even force you into environments or decisions that don't align with your values, just to survive. But the good news is this: financial clarity is possible, and it starts with setting intentional boundaries around how you earn, spend, save, and give. Financial chaos is not a personality trait. Let's get something straight: being bad with money is not a fixed identity. More often than not, it's the result of unhealed patterns, emotional spending, or simply not being taught how to manage money wisely. Boundaries around money don't require perfection. They require awareness. You don't have to be rich to be intentional. You just have to be honest about what you're doing with what you have, and whether it supports or sabotages your long-term vision. Questions to reflect on. Do I avoid looking at my finances because it feels overwhelming or shameful? Do I spend money impulsively to escape stress, boredom, or emotional discomfort? Do I give or lend money out of guilt or fear of disappointing someone? Do I have a clear plan for my income, or is it always spoken for before it arrives? If any of these resonate, it's time to look at money not as a source of stress, but as something you can actively steward. When you set boundaries with your money, you stop being a passive participant in your financial life and become the one in charge. Boundaries that protect your financial energy. A budget isn't a punishment. It's a boundary you set with yourself that says, I have a plan. It helps you say yes and no with intention. It gives your money direction instead of letting it drift into things that don't serve you. 2. Spending with purpose, not emotion. Set a rule for impulse purchases, like waiting 24 hours before buying anything over a certain amount. Learn to pause. That small space between desire and decision is where power lives. 3. Saying no to guilt-based giving. It's generous to want to help others. But if your giving consistently puts you in financial strain, that's not generosity. It's self-neglect. Create a giving budget. Be generous within your means, not beyond them. 4. Protecting your income from lifestyle creep. As you earn more, it's tempting to spend more. But financial freedom comes from growing the gap between what you earn and what you spend, not filling that gap with more stuff. 5. Building an emergency fund equals building peace. Having savings is more than practical, it's psychological. It gives you breathing room. It gives you choice. It protects you from making fear-based decisions when life gets hard. Your future needs today's discipline. Money boundaries aren't about restriction. They're about liberation. When you stop letting your finances control you and start managing them with intention, you unlock a sense of stability that impacts every area of your life. Financial peace doesn't mean you never spend. It means you spend consciously. It means you invest in things that align with your goals, not just your impulses. It means you stop trying to impress people who aren't invested in your future and start making decisions your future self will thank you for. You don't need to have it all figured out. You just need to start paying attention. Chapter 9. The Edge of Growth Environments. You can't flourish in soil that stifles your roots. The spaces you inhabit, physically, mentally, socially, and emotionally, shape the person you become. Growth isn't powered by motivation alone. It's influenced by your ecosystem. If your surroundings are soaked in fear, gossip, scarcity, or stagnation, no amount of hustle will help you rise. That's not a lack of strength. That's simply the law of environment. Your atmosphere either nurtures expansion or enforces limits. Setting boundaries around where you grow isn't about arrogance or detachment. It's about aligning your space with your next chapter. Growth demands a trade. Comfort, one of the hardest boundaries to honor, is choosing the unknown over the familiar. Familiarity feels safe, even when it's slowly shrinking you. The draining job, the misaligned friendships, the comforting routines that keep you asleep to your own potential. Here's the truth. Growth is uncomfortable. It requires leaving the spaces that prefer you small. It asks you to stop trying to bloom in containers that can't hold your full expression. Ask yourself, do my daily rhythms reflect the life I want or the one I've settled into? Do the people around me challenge me to expand or tempt me to shrink? Does my physical space breathe inspiration or clutter my clarity? Am I loyal to environments that only serve my past self? If those questions sting, that's awareness knocking. Boundaries that build better environments. 1. Guard your space. Your surroundings are a mirror of your mind. Chaos outside often signals chaos within. Clear your environment of clutter, noise, and distraction. Design a space that invites calm, focus, and creativity. 2. Audit your circle. You evolve into the energy you're surrounded by. Protect yourself from gossip, negativity, and emotional loops that keep you rehearsing old patterns. Outgrowing people isn't betrayal, it's alignment. 3. Curate what you consume. Your digital intake is part of your environment. What you watch, scroll, and listen to seeps into your mindset. Protect your focus like it's sacred. Be intentional about your inputs. Consume what cultivates peace and purpose. 4. Build rituals of growth. Anchor your days in nourishment, reading, reflection, movement, stillness. Rituals become the invisible scaffolding that supports transformation. 5. Refuse to revisit old energy loops. You're not stagnant. You're just stuck in repetition. Break the cycle. Decline the same draining conversations, the same self-sabotaging patterns. Once you've healed from a space, you don't belong there anymore. The environment you allow becomes the life you live. You don't have to exile yourself to evolve, but you do need discernment. Some spaces were built for a version of you that no longer exists. You can love people deeply and still release the dynamics that keep you small. Protecting your environment isn't unkind, it's conscious. It's choosing soil that supports your stretch. Growth is not only effort, it's placement. When you curate your surroundings with intention, everything begins to shift: your energy, your clarity, your forward motion. Chapter 10. The boundary of future vision. If you don't guard your vision, the world will rewrite it for you. Your future isn't an accident waiting to happen. It's being shaped right now, through your boundaries, your focus, and your habits. Yet the pull of conformity, what others expect, what culture glorifies, what fear whispers, is relentless. Still, the truth remains. Your future belongs only to you. Protect your vision like a seed. A seed doesn't sprout under constant inspection. It grows under protection. Your vision is no different. In its beginning stages, it doesn't need to be explained, compared, or validated. It needs stillness, privacy, and faith. Ask yourself, who do I allow near my dreams, and do they nurture or drain them? Do I give myself space to dream without needing approval? Is my focus guarded or fragmented by distraction? Which habits are feeding my future, and which are starving it? Your vision doesn't need validation. It needs commitment. Clarity requires quiet. When your future feels foggy, it's often because too many voices are echoing in your head. Clarity rarely arrives through consensus. It comes through solitude and self-trust. Set boundaries like, I'll share my vision once my belief is strong enough to hold it. I won't entertain conversations rooted in fear or limitation. I refuse to defend my purpose to people who choose not to understand it. These aren't walls, they're gates. They protect your focus so your future can take form. Consistency is the currency of vision. Big moments don't build your destiny, small decisions do. Boundaries give those decisions structure. You don't need to run faster. You need to stay faithful. Create rhythm. Honor your process. Keep showing up, especially when it's unglamorous or unseen, because what you're really guarding isn't just your time or energy. You're guarding your becoming. You are the builder. Every boundary you've set until now around time, money, emotion, energy, and space was preparing you for this. The boundary around your vision. Boundaries were never about restriction. They were blueprints. They cleared the clutter so you could construct something meaningful. You are the designer of your life. You don't need permission. You don't need perfection. You need clarity, consistency, and courage. Let others drift by default. You're choosing to build with intention. Final note. Boundaries are not barriers. They're frameworks for freedom. They create the structure where your highest self can finally breathe. When you guard your energy, you honor your future. And from this moment forward, you decide what has access to both.